And we are live. Hello, one and all, and welcome to my review for last night's edition of Monday Night Raw. We're going to take a look and break down everything that took place on the November 21st, 2016 edition of Raw. And I have to say, it's been a long time since I've been able to say this, but I actually enjoyed last night's edition of Raw. I thought from start to finish, overall, mostly it was a solid edition of the show, coming off the heels of what was a controversial ending to Survivor Series. I thought Raw carried the momentum throughout the night. I thought the crowd was mostly into what we saw. Now, while everything on the show wasn't perfect, I enjoyed most of what we got on this show. So for the first time in a number of weeks, Raw really just felt, fresh, and we got some good matches and some storyline progressions. And, the 3 hours for the most part felt utilized. Usually, Raw drags and spots, but like I said, I enjoyed Raw for the most part last night compared to how I've been feeling about the show for the past number of weeks. So kudos to the WWE on finally putting on a good episode. I'm not getting my hopes up because usually we'll get a good episode and then we'll get like 4 to 5 weeks of bad episodes. So I'm not holding my breath, but it was just nice for once to enjoy an episode of Raw. And with that out of the way, guys, let's get into and take a look at what took place on last night's edition of Monday Night Raw. So we kicked things off in the best way possible. Goldberg would make his triumphant way to the ring. Massive reaction from the crowd. Goldberg comes down to the ring, and he pretty much talks about the fact that he talked about the opportunity, how he went out there and performed in front of his wife and his son. He said he conquered the beast, and he said, is this the end? Is this going to be the end of Goldberg? But he talked about the fact that he walked up to Stephanie McMahon, and Goldberg, Stephanie said, did he have one more spear left in him? And does he have one more title run left in him? And Goldberg said, you bet your ass he does. And the crowd breaks into a yes chant, and Goldberg officially announces that he will be the first entrant in the 2017 Royal Rumble match. Huge news, obviously. We knew coming out of Survivor Series that if Goldberg, won in such a decisive fashion, that there was no way that it was simply going to be a one-off. There was simply no way that that was going to happen. And it makes sense to put Goldberg in the Royal Rumble match. And I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm assuming he would be the number one entrant. It would be great. You have his iconic entrance, and then boom, maybe you have Brock at number 2. They battle out, and that could possibly lead to another match between Goldberg and Lesnar at WrestleMania. But guys, let me know down in the comments section below after you watch this video, what do you think of Goldberg being the number one entrant in the 2017 Royal Rumble? Like I said, we're hearing reports that Lesnar will be in the Rumble as well. So it will be interesting to see those two when their paths cross. But this was a good segment. Perfect way to start the show. You can't start the show with any hotter type of segment. So from here, we were off to the races. I mean, this was a great announcement, and I look forward to seeing Goldberg in the Royal Rumble. After this, we had tag team title match. It was a solid match, probably the best match between these two, I'd have to say. The New Day defending their tag team championships versus Sheamus and Cesaro. Now, I am a fan of the New Day, don't get me wrong, but I just feel that, we're coming to the point, it's long overdue, the New Day drop their tag team championships. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's just how I feel. They're starting to get stale. Like I said, I feel like somebody else, maybe a Cesaro and Sheamus, Enzo and Cass, or the Club would be deserving to hold those tag team championships, because I just feel the New Day have done as much as they can with those tag team titles. But if math serves me correctly, they are currently at 456 days as champion, and they have another 22 days counting today until they break Demolition's record. And the fact that they brought this up on the show and they got booed when they said this, that was interesting to see. But I thought this was a solid match between New Day versus Sheamus and Cesaro. Cesaro hugely over with the crowd, just his level of athleticism, his power, his strength. And towards the end of the match, I thought Cesaro and Sheamus actually might pick up the tag titles. I was like, maybe they will. Cesaro had Kofi Kingston locked in. Cesaro, yeah. Kofi Kingston locked into the sharpshooter. But the referee didn't see Kingston tap out as Xavier Woods distracted the referee. And that led to Kofi rolling up Cesaro with a small package for the win. Sheamus attempted to break up the pin, but it was to no avail. And New Day is still your tag team champions. So I still think they beat Demolition's record. Like I said, I think that would put them in line to drop the titles at the Roadblock show, because I think they break the record on December 13th. So we got 3 more episodes of Raw, and then, like I said, I think they will drop them at Roadblock. That's my prediction right there. But I don't know. Did you guys see a little bit of a heel tendency from the New Day after they, won the match? Because the crowd was booing them, and I don't know, just the way it kind of all went down, maybe just because it was in Canada. I don't know, but I kind of got that vibe. I don't know if they're going in a heel direction, but, maybe that's what they should do, or split them up. I mean, I just felt like they've done all they can as tag team champions, and I'd just like to see somebody else hold those titles. But this is still a good match between Sheamus and Cesaro and versus the New Day. We then had Chris Jericho backstage. The gift of Jericho, man. And Jericho said, he was asked how you felt about after seeing Team Raw lose to SmackDown. And Jericho said, he's going to have a highlight reel, and he's going to tell us who exactly he's going to blame. So we had that little tease. We then had, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we had a naked Enzo Amore on this show. One more time. We had a naked Enzo Amore on this show. That's right. Raw apparently, for one segment, went back to TV 14. I couldn't believe what I was watching, and I actually thought this was funny. I was like, holy shit, where the hell did this come from? But Enzo's walking around naked, and he sees Lana, and Lana's kind of eyeing him. He's like, Enzo, how you doing? And then Rusev comes in, and he says, why are you naked in front of my wife? And Enzo tells Rusev he wouldn't exactly call it a problem. Funny line there. Cass walks up, and he says, Rusev, do you have a problem? Rusev says, Enzo, put some clothes on. I'm going to crush you in the ring. So that led to a setup. Weird way to set up a match between Enzo and Rusev, but I actually thought, despite the weirdness, it was a funny segment. And certainly pushed the envelope, however you pronounce it. We eventually had Stephanie and Mick Foley talking backstage. They talked about the fact that Sami Zayn deserves to be punished for losing at Survivor Series. Even though The Miz did grab the tights, and even though Maurice did ring the bell. So we're just going to forget that. It's all Sami Zayn's fault. Sami Zayn, Yes, Enzo Amore's Val Venus 2.0. Oh, my God. That's funny. Hello, ladies. But Sami Zayn walks in, and his punishment is facing the behemoth, the badass. I like how Corey Graves said this. The Tower of Terror, Braun Strowman. I know they can't use that because of copyright, but I actually think that's a pretty badass nickname. So we have that match to look forward to later on in the show. We then had Cedric Alexander versus Daivari. I'm just going to call him Daivari. I can't pronounce his first name. Decent match. Like I said, I really wish the Cruiserweight went to SmackDown. We're not really getting character development. We're just getting random matches on this show. And, it was nice to see Cedric. He got the win with the lumbar check. But they really didn't have much time to work with. And it's just disappointing to see. Highlight Reel was up next. The Gift of Jericho. Jericho came out and he told us, there was tragedy that happened at Survivor Series. And before Jericho could even go on his tirade, Kevin Owens would come down to the ring. And I love the way that these two really worked up the fact that it seemed like Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho were going to turn on each other. Jericho talked up the fact, or Owens talked up the fact that, he hit Styles with the list to save Jericho. and he said he did that to save Jericho because he is his best friend, and Owens and Jericho go on and on. And Jericho said that if that's how you feel, Owens, then you must not really be friends. And it looks like they're going to split up. And I was hoping, maybe we're going to get a Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens feud. Come on, do it. But no, they trolled me and the entire crowd, and they revealed it was a ruse, and Jericho remains standing tall. So I actually like that, despite the fact that they didn't split up tonight. They had me going. I thought for sure they were going to split. And then they elicited the blame on Reigns and Rollins. Eventually, Rollins would come down to the ring, and Jericho and Owens would double team him 2-on-1. Roman Reigns would come down to make the save. Foley comes out and makes the announcement that tonight in that ring for the main event of Raw, it would be Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens in a no disqualification match with both Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns banned from ringside. So that was a nice announcement for what turned out to be a really solid main event match on this show. We then had Enzo taking on Rusev. Rusev decapitated Enzo with a sick-looking kick to the head, locked in the Accolade. 1, 2, 3. Rusev wins. But I like the intense stare that Cass elicited towards Rusev. It might possibly, if I could say the word, be teasing a potential match between those two at Roadblock. And I will get into my Roadblock card predictions later on this week. I have a video coming up for that. But we'll have to see and follow. Maybe we'll see that feud kick off. I think that would be an interesting feud. Rusev versus Big Cass. But I just noticed that. And I liked it. I liked just the way that Big Cass looked disgusted. Just seeing the way that his friend was abused by Rusev. We then had the Club versus the Golden Truth #1 contenders match to determine who would face the New Day next week on Raw. No surprise here. The Club won, as they should, but you all know where this is going. They're not beating the New Day. I mean, every single time that the Club faces the New Day, what happens? Say it with me. They lose. So don't get your hopes up. It ain't happening. I mean, who knows? Maybe WWE pull a rabbit out of their ass, but yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up at all. After this, we had Braun Strowman versus Sami Zayn. I like this. It really, to me, helped emphasize, Sami Zayn of being the ultimate underdog. The fact that Strowman blindsided him and just beat the holy hell out of him. I mean, he was throwing him around like a rag doll. And Sami, despite being abused and bloodied in the mouth, which was a nice image, he still tried to take it to Braun Strowman. And then Mick Foley would come out, and he had to call off the match due to the fact that Sami Zayn couldn't defend himself. But I think this made, Sami look like an underdog. It made Strowman look like a badass. And I'm interested to see where they go next with these guys. That's all I can say. But this was interesting. It's, man, yes, Braun, he just flew. He was running down that ring, down the ramp, and he blindsided Sami. He definitely he has a lot of speed for a big man. Like I said, more and more I'm becoming a fan of the way that they're booking and slowly building up Braun Strowman. I like the slow build approach. And then had the in-ring segment with Charlotte and Dana Brooke, and I was looking forward to this due to the fact that this might be the kickoff for a feud between Charlotte and Bayley. Instead, what we got here was Sasha Banks coming out and saying that now that Survivor Series is over, I owed my rematch, and apparently next week, again, we're going to be doing Sasha versus Charlotte again, which I thought the feud was, I thought Hell in a Cell meant that's the end of the feud, but silly me, I should know that Hell in a Cell doesn't end feuds. It's simply just a stopgap. And more perfect evidence here. I don't know. The fact that Sasha and Charlotte are fighting again, we've seen this match many, many times. I feel like I'm just getting sick of it at this point. don't get me wrong, I like seeing them fight, but it's just like, how many times are you going to do the same match? And what, is Sasha going to win it only to lose it to Charlotte at Roadblock? I mean, it's the same thing every time. So I would have rather have seen Bayley confront Charlotte, and that kicks off. That's what I thought was going to happen, but no, we had Sasha come out, and now we have a match between Sasha and Charlotte next week. I don't really care that much, seeing as how we've seen them fight 4 to 5 times already. So eventually Nia Jax would come out, and she called Sasha Banks overrated. Eventually, this would lead to Jax and Charlotte double teaming. Banks, Bayley would come out to make the save. After this, we would have a tag team match. It was all right, standard stuff here. Sasha and Bayley versus Charlotte and Nia. Sasha and Bayley pick up the win after Banks kicks out and locks in Charlotte with the Banks statement for the win. Right now, I just feel like the women's division on Raw is a mess. I'm like, okay, if I was booking the Raw women's division, here's what I'd do. Just doing some fantasy booking. Throw it out there. And let me know what you think of this, guys. So for my main feud, I would be doing Charlotte versus Bayley at Roadblock. Then I would have Sasha versus Emma. And then I'd call Mickie James. Hey, Mickie, we need you on Raw. You'd be a great veteran presence. Mickie versus Nia. There's 3 feuds for your women's division. So, guys, let me know what you think. What do you think of those feuds for the Raw women's division? Charlotte versus Bayley for the Raw women's title. Sasha versus a returning Emma. Cost Sasha the title match next week. That sets up their program. And Mickie James makes her return to Raw. And I think she could have a good program with Nia. Boom. There you go. You give all the women something to do. 3 feuds. It can be done. But, it ain't hard to do. And the fact that we're just doing Sasha and Charlotte again, it frustrates me. But and for WrestleMania, I would still do Sasha versus Bayley. And then you could do Charlotte versus Mickie. That would be a great match. That would be a really good match at WrestleMania. Man. So, yeah. But that's what I do for the future. But we'll have to see where they go going forward. But, yeah. We had a number 1 contenders match in the Cruiserweight Division. Rich Swann versus Noam Dar versus TJ Perkins. I actually thought this wasn't too bad of a match. It certainly was it wasn't a great effort from the Cruiserweights. I still felt like they were being toned down, but this was a little better. If they would just continue to let these guys just go out there and express and show themselves, how they were able to show and do high octane flying moves, it's just I don't know. I don't get why they don't let this division succeed. But I did think this was a somewhat decent to good match. I thought Rich Swann looked really good coming out of this match. And he is your new number 1 contender, which I'm happy about. I love Rich Swann. A talented individual. He's going to be facing the Brian Kendrick at the upcoming 205 Live special next week, the debut of that series. So hopefully on that show, we see these guys just go out there and tear it up like I know that they can. But like I said, happy to see Kendrick, or not Kendrick, what the hell am I talking about? Happy to see Rich Swann walk out with the win. And after that, guys, we had our Universal Championship match. And I thought this was a really good match between Kevin Owens defending against Seth Rollins. I liked when these guys went out into the ring, outside the ring, went into the crowd, used steel chairs. Owens did got hit with a back body drop on the chairs by Seth Rollins. And then Rollins and Owens would eventually brawl through the outside. Rollins hit Owens in the head with a trash can. Rollins eventually climbed up. It looked like Owens was going to powerbomb Rollins onto the concrete. They were near the concourse area. Rollins did a Spider-Man-like maneuver, climbed up on top of the little ledge there, and he just crashed and dived right on Owens. It really reminded me, was it at when the Shield fought Evolution? Payback? If you guys are watching live, let me know down in the comment section below. Was it at Payback where Rollins did the same move? It was great. Crowd went nuts, but that really harkened me back to the Shield and Evolution feud. But The match was going pretty well, and then eventually, wouldn't you know it, and watching this and talking about it the day after, Chris Jericho attacked Seth Rollins, and what was he wearing? I love this. Just Jericho's awesome. A Sin Cara mask. So I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm like, no way. Chris Jericho's wearing a Sin Cara mask. That's just funny stuff. That's something Jericho would do. Rollins revealed that it's Jericho, and eventually he hit him with a pedigree. But Owens superkicked Rollins, powerbombed him on the ring apron, and Owens gets the pinfall, and he is still your Universal Champion. So it was a good match, good way for Raw to go off the air. Owens standing tall. And yeah, for the first time in a number of weeks, I enjoyed Raw. I felt like we got some solid matches, some storyline progressions that can continue next week. Goldberg with his huge announcement. For the most part, I felt like the 3 hours were utilized effectively. But I wonder if they could keep – this is the problem. Can they keep the momentum going? Usually they can't. So we'll have to see where they go next week, but I'll keep my expectations low, and I would really like for them to give us another good episode of Raw. Please, please, please. I know you can, WWE, I know you can put on a good episode, but the question is, do they want to, or are they just going to half-ass it? We'll see. Guys, any other comments you have in the live chat before we go off the air here? Your thoughts on Raw? And by the way, I'm giving last night's episode a B. A B for Raw last night. I do agree. Jericho will be punished for his act. We should be punished. You know, logically that would make sense. But yeah. And real quick before we go off the air here, check my Twitter poll. See what you guys thought of Raw last night. Did a poll on Twitter. Let's see how many of you voted. 12 of you voted. Thank you for participating. 92% thumbs up. 8% thumbs down. So thank you. Maybe we might see, well, Jericho versus Braun as punishment. I could see that happening. That would be interesting. Maybe. We'll have to see. But yeah. That's pretty much it, guys. So thank you for watching this live Raw review. And remember to please click the like and subscribe button for more video content coming soon to this channel. I will be back up here later on tonight to review SmackDown Live. We got 2 weeks till TLC, so they're going to have to get a shit ton of stuff done in a short amount of time. And I do like Strowman a lot. I don't think he's the best on Raw, but he certainly has improved the most, I have to say, over a period of time. So, but yeah, I really like what they're doing with Braun Strowman. He has been one of the few that have benefited from being on Raw. But, yeah, guys, thank you for watching this live Raw review. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Facebook. The links are down below in the description box. And I will be back up here later on tonight for my SmackDown Live review. So we will have a lot to talk about. And until then, take care and have a great rest of your evening.